What are the biggest mindset shifts every weightlifter needs to make? When does it make sense to do squats before your Olympic lifts? And what's the biggest thing USA Weightlifting can do to grow the sport that they're not doing right now? In episode 35 of the Last Set Best Set podcast, Coach Calvin and I dive deep answering these questions and more. And if you want your question answered on next week's episode, then make sure to leave a comment down below. Welcome back to the Last Set Best Set podcast. I'm Coach Brian. I'm the owner of Big Ben Strength. I've been teaching Olympic lifting for the last 11 years.
And I'm Coach Calvin. I'm current captain of Lindenwood University's Olympic weightlifting program, as well as a coach through Big Ben Strength and 2025 National University Champion.
And today we're going to be answering some questions that you guys submitted to us, starting with question number 1. What are your biggest pieces of mindset advice? Love this question. And the more I've been coaching weightlifting, the more I have found that so much of this sport is a mental game, is a mindset game, even the day-to-day stuff, but also the big picture stuff. So I'm curious to know, what is your first piece of mindset advice?
The first thing I see far too often, especially with younger lifters as they kind of approach the next phase of the sport, that might be going from the youth to the junior level or from the junior to the senior level, or even just like a kid that has, their own personal goals within the short term, is exactly that, is trying to really chase short-term success, when they have long-term goals. So, it's totally okay to really want to win states in high school, and do everything possible to win your high school state or, youth, make a youth Team USA team if you just are like, yep, I'm quitting after that. But you're doing a bit of a give and take when it comes to, you still want a long weightlifting career. You want success after your youth years, after your high school years. But you're putting all your resources, all your energy into being good in the short term. So a few ways this manifests: cutting weight to a really unreasonable level just to win medals in the short term. A lot of the times you see these kids cutting weight if you're under 18, should you even be cutting weight at all? I don't know. Unless you're making Team USA teams or that kind of thing, or, it's really hard to justify, in my opinion, as a young person who should be growing, who should be getting more muscle, which is just going to help you later on. I see so many people limit their progress by cutting weight way too much. You see this manifest as peaking for every competition.
Mm-hmm.
When you're peaking, you're not getting better. When you're going into that comp and you're in that super just weightlifting phase, you're not actually getting better. You're getting better at the Olympic lifts in the short term, more efficient, but you're not improving your strength numbers. You might be getting more efficient in your strength lifts, but realistically, long term, you're not building a bigger base. You're not doing that base building that is going to lead to long-term success. Look back on your training, right? 5 years from now, and think about what you wish you could have been doing now. Is it peaking for 4 meets, all 4 national meets in the year? Probably not. It's probably doing volume, taking an off season, doing tons of accessories, like training really well-rounded, and it's not going all in on snatch and clean and jerk in your second year of weightlifting to try and, win some, youth national title or something like that. There's still value in those things, but should you sell your soul and your future for doing that? That's my big thing. I see probably the most often is chasing short-term success.
And similar to the peaking too much for every meet, I think even simpler than that with people who don't necessarily maybe have good coaches, is just going heavy in their training too often. They're so focused on I need to hit the best possible numbers at this meet in 3 weeks that I'm going to push myself to the bone to maybe get a 5-pound PR or whatever it is. But, really it's just lifts that they're getting away with. The way that the analogy that kind of came to my mind when you were saying that was, I think that peaking is kind of like uncovering what you've built. So it's kind of like being an archaeologist and you are dusting away. Peaking is finding the thing that other people built. But the thing that those people built is all of the work that you put in beforehand. Does that make sense? Like you're kind of thinking about like peaking as like uncovering all the work that you've already done. But if you're just peaking all the time, you're never actually doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't just always be doing Big Friday year round, doing singles year round. Like you have to go into a work capacity phase. You have to build your strength numbers. And it's a lot harder to build your strength numbers when you're going like very, very heavy in the Olympic lifts every week.
100%. All right. So my first piece of mindset advice: it takes longer than you think. Most people, I would say, overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year. Same thing happens. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. I think most people do not have a solid grasp on how hard it is and how long it takes to actually get good at something. It doesn't even have to be weightlifting. This applies everywhere. If you want to be really good at something, it takes so much longer than you think. But by trying to rush that process, trying to speed up through that, you don't get the benefits. You just won't truly understand, or you won't fully uncover all of the little things that make long term progress happen. You know, so that's probably my biggest one. And honestly, I think that this is more than likely the single most important thing that people can take away from this is that it just takes longer than you think.
Yeah, there's sort of that like compound interest kind of vibe of like of weightlifting in my opinion where
Mm.
like it doesn't really seem that beneficial in like a few months, training like what, we might call like the right way, training in a way that really works. But you look at it over years and it's a lot of progress. Like that sort of 1% every day kind of mentality,
Hmm.
as opposed to trying to get 10% in a week, like trying to get like, 20% better in a week, in a month. Uh, it really lends to like burnout. I'd say you have to really trust the process and be in it for the long haul. Um,
Absolutely.
you might notice a theme with a lot of these mindset things that we're talking about. But yeah,
Hey guys, quick interruption because I'm excited to announce the dates for our third annual summer training camp. This summer, Coach Calvin and I want to invite you to come train with us in Tallahassee, Florida from July 23rd through the 27th. We'll have double day workouts, a visit to the FSU Sports Performance Lab, an ice bath, breathing, and sauna workshop, and of course, 2 exciting max out sessions on Saturday. You'll have the option to come in for the full 5-day experience, just visit for the weekend, or if you can only make one day work, you can pick a day pass for any of the days. You can grab your spot and save $50 on registration when you use the discount code LASTSETPOD at checkout. All right, back to the show.
what I have for number two is kind of a like a narrative. I hear a lot of athletes kind of telling themselves, telling other people, "Well, I should be at 100 snatch by now because I hit 95 6 months ago. Like I really should. I deserve to be at XYZ, or I should open at 100 because at my last meet I opened at 95, or I'm supposed to be here in my lifts, but I'm only here." Um, there's like this entitlement kind of narrative that goes around weightlifting, um, and it's so ridiculous to me because nothing in this sport is guaranteed. No progress is guaranteed. No, you're not entitled to any. So many people can get injured and just boom, all that work you did, you're not entitled to anything. All you have control over is your inputs. And a big part of this is you're sleeping, you're eating, your recovery as far as lifting. That includes not going heavy too often, right? And most of the time, the people saying these things, I deserve to be, I should be, I'm supposed to be, are the people that aren't in control of these aspects of their lives. They're not doing their best job to put in inputs well. They're not doing in control of the controllables. Um, so like just because you think you're supposed to get better because you're putting in the work, surprise, everyone else enjoys putting in work in the gym. Not everybody enjoys putting in work outside of the gym. It probably is going to take more time than you think, or more discipline than you're already doing, to get to that level of, success that this ambitious level of success that you kind of think you deserve. It probably takes more than you're already doing to get there. especially if you're not seeing the results you want to. So this one is really about looking within as to what I'm doing to get better and stop pointing fingers at other people. Well, my program, is whatever. My coach, I don't like how he does this. There's a lot of fingers to point. Or well, school, my teacher gives me too much assignments. So look within. That's my big thing on this second one here. Don't be entitled. You're in control of your athletic kind of destiny in a way.
Deserves got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
All right, my next piece of advice here: the things you want to avoid can become your competitive advantage. So I think I see a lot of athletes who are really in love with the snatch and the clean and jerk, doing the lifts. A lot of the time it's just one of the two, And so they'll spend all of their time, like mental energy, really focused on that. And then when it comes time to do the work on the other stuff, maybe that's doing your accessories, maybe that's doing your squats and doing your pulls. Maybe that's just doing lighter technique work, not going heavy for once.
Yeah.
Maybe that's, doing just a little bit of mobility before bed every day and tracking your macros so that your nutrition is on point and sleeping 9 hours every night. Like, maybe it's all those little things. Those are the things that every single other person in the sport has a hard time with too. Every single other person wants to take the easy way out, right? They want to not have to do that kind of stuff. And whenever I find something like that, where there is something where I don't want to do it because it's going to be boring or, I just can't be bothered that day, I know that other people are feeling the exact same way. And if I'm the one that does it and they are not, that is my competitive advantage. And if I can stack up enough of those things that I know nobody else wants to do, I don't want to do it either, but I'll do it. If I can stack up enough of those things, I know that that's going to be a huge competitive advantage. The way that I think about this a lot of the times is like if you were to view your athletic performance as a castle and it's got a little moat around it, right? A little moat to help protect it. The more things that you do that nobody else wants to do, the bigger a moat you build. And if you can stack up just enough of those things, eventually that moat becomes an ocean and it is impossible to cross. And at that point, you have the biggest competitive advantage against everybody else because they are not as defensible as you are. And so that's my second piece of mindset advice here. Everything that you want to avoid can become your competitive advantage because everyone else wants to avoid it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when it comes to those things that take extra discipline, there is a certain amount of like we all know that if we ate chicken and rice and veggies for every meal, we would be better. There's a certain amount that you can handle and handle it for the long term and not burn out doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part to find. And I would go as far to say as almost everybody could be doing more and still make it sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most people aren't finding their like level where they're like maxed out on efficiency and output as far as that. So I think very many people go overboard for a short period of time and then burn out and go back. Like lots of
Yeah.
people flop back and forth between those.
And that's a great point. I think people will hear something like this and think that it's just
They're like, oh, I have to lock in every single thing I do like in this super
right.
unsustainable way.
It quickly feels like hustle culture. Like I just have to work harder than everybody else.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think you have to make it easier for you to work harder than everybody else.
Yeah,
Right. So a lot of the time that comes from stacking it up over time.
yeah,
So it
building.
doesn't mean that like, you need to do all your accessories and your nutrition and your recovery and all that be locked in from day one. I think what that really looks like is like, why don't we start with training? Let's try and make sure that our training is as intentional as possible. We're doing every single set and rep that the program has. Then once you do that for long enough, it just kind of becomes easy. It becomes second nature. And
It's
then you add the next thing.
it's about building those habits, and I think there's a big thing when it comes to like rituals,
Yeah.
that you want to build something that you just can't forget to do. Like
Yeah.
if I wake up every morning and have a protein shake, and every night I have my walnuts for omega 3s and, sort of anti-inflammatory benefits and another protein shake. And I always have my creatine in the morning because it's right next to my bathroom sink. And I always drink a glass of water in the morning anyway, so I just mix in my creatine. Like, these are things I actually do. And like, if you just set up a routine for that, okay, well, the version of me that has 2 protein shakes a day for a year is a lot better weightlifter than the version who does that, like, a couple months out of the year.
Hmm.
So I've built this routine that fosters success, the system that builds success that I don't even have to think about anymore. It takes
100%.
it takes such little effort for me to do these things now because they're my routine.
And,
It's like
and
brushing
I
my teeth.
and I think that there's a bigger element to it is just how long can you keep doing that?
Yeah.
Makes things become easier over time, right? Once you become accustomed to something, then it just becomes easier, right? Like I used to think that when I was in my 20s that I was working as hard as I possibly could. And then like especially in my early 20s, dude, I thought I was working as hard as possible. Now I look back and I'm like, I didn't even know what hard work looked like. Like I can now sit down for 6 hours straight and work on one project without stopping. And I can do that 4 days in a row. I couldn't even possibly comprehend something like that back then. But it just takes time because I built up that habit of doing it to where now I'm like, it's just second nature. I think that that happens a lot in training as well.
Yeah, there's certain ways you can approach your training. Like if you do the same set of, warm up drills every day, I'm talking about like dynamic warm up, like before the barbell.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing bear crawls and somersaults and handstand holds and name any other drill that's gonna like help you in the long term, like you're gonna be a better weightlifter if you incorporate that just literally every day as part of your warm up versus remembering it to do it like, oh, once a week after my Olympic
Hmm.
lift. Like you got to have a system and stick to it. Like every new block I get of programming, like I choose my own accessories. Like my coach makes the Olympic lifts and strength movements, but I get to choose my own accessories. I make a system. I do these on Monday. I do these on Tuesday. I do these on Wednesday. And then I stick to that system because otherwise I'm just shooting in the dark. I'm just random,
Hmm.
trying to hit the
Yeah.
fish in the barrel or whatever.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah,
makes sense. All
building.
right. What's your next piece of weightlifting advice here?
For me, it's another motivation piece, of course. Extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. I see a lot of people, again, younger lifters especially, get really focused on winning, on getting medals, getting titles, making teams, that kind of thing. Um, so it's really just I see the point. I see the appeal in it, especially when you're younger too. There's maybe a lot more opportunities to win medals. There's, a lot more meets. Maybe you're in high school weightlifting in Florida, right? Like we talk about that so much. Like there's so many opportunities to win medals at different meets. Like it makes it fun because you're winning. But you need to fall in love with the actual sport, not with the winning of the medals.
Hmm.
So the person that's like not afraid to lose for a few meets to get better, in the long term, that's the person you need to be afraid of. The person who it doesn't even affect them when they lose. If you're that person that loses and you obviously wanted to win, you lose and you're just devastated and it kills you, we got to stop that mindset because you want to be completely unfazed like a goldfish, like, oh, the only meat that matters is the next one. Like that one, I already forgot about it. Like it doesn't matter. Like I know what I need to do to get better. I'm already on my track to get better. I trust in this system that I'm bought into so hard that I know I'm getting better, and this one time loss doesn't matter to me at all. This could even be at nationals, right? This could be at a very big level meet. Like, you need to almost be the exact same mentally after a win as you are after a loss because you're in love with the process. You're not in love with the result.
Hmm.
Um, you know that if you keep trusting that process, you're going to get the result. So many people lose that kind of mindset because they're so obsessed with winning. And weightlifting is like, I don't know, you got to have it really deep, like in your blood and who you are as a person, to really love this. And that's hard to build if you don't have that already and you're just obsessed with the winning. So it's hard because I don't have a ton of advice for those people to switch over. It's just you have to realize that you have to completely change your mindset about winning, about what makes you a good lifter, what makes this sport worth it. You have to dig and do a lot of thought work on why you do this sport or what are the other good reasons about doing this sport that aren't just winning medals. So many people need to do a lot of like mental gymnastics around that where
Hmm.
they focus on what their why really is. Yeah.
I think a good one that has helped me a lot with that is, yes, I want to win, but more important than that is I want to figure out I want to know who I'm going to be that is the person who wins. So it's not so much that the winning, it's I'm interested to figure out who I'm going to become when I win.
Yeah.
That is a more interesting thing to me. I'm less concerned with the actual winning and more concerned with who I'm going to become
Yeah.
that is the winner, right? That is the one that has helped me out a little bit.
Yeah. So many people are like concerned with like I think of like a mountain, like climbing a mountain. Like they want the result that's at the top of the mountain. It's a
Hmm.
certain number on a snatch. It's a win. It's winning nationals. It's whatever it is, right? So many people want to just arrive at the top of that mountain. Um, but if you just arrived there, if you freaking helicoptered to the top of the mountain,
Right.
like
It wouldn't have any meaning.
did you climb the mountain? Yeah, there's no meaning to it now. Like you didn't actually climb the mountain. Like you just teleported up there, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That is such a great analogy for it. Is like, you know, if one person flies a helicopter to the top of a mountain, another person hikes to the top of a mountain.
yeah.
They both got to the mountain, sure, but one person's a whole lot different than they were at the beginning versus the end of that journey.
Yeah. So that was my last one. What about you?
Taking a quick break from the episode to let you know about the OlyStrong team. The OlyStrong team is my online group coaching option for lifters who are looking to improve their technique, get strong, and set PRs. It includes your choice of 3 or 5 days a week of workouts, daily video feedback, and unlimited coach messaging to ask as many questions as you'd like for less than $1 a day. If you're ready to get started, then click the link in the description below for a free week trial today. All right, back to the show.
All right, my last one here is no weight has meaning. I think that this maybe is a little bit out of reach for some people. I think people bring a lot of emotion into their training, and that can really easily become an over attachment to certain weights, especially benchmark weights. I want to clean 315, I want to snatch 80 kilos, whatever it is, right? People will focus on that goal, and then suddenly that becomes the thing rather than the work, right? So rather than the work. So kind of what I think about whenever I notice somebody starting to kind of develop like an emotional attachment to a weight. I like to tell them that every PR, this number that you're focused on, is eventually going to become a warm up for you if you stick with it long enough. But by focusing on this number so much, you're putting more of your attention on the end goal rather than the work that will get you there. And I think it also ends up, you kind of almost create like a nemesis with a weight over a long period of time. That kind of like Batman and the Joker. He never kills the Joker. He's always kind of just like they're always battling back and forth. And so when you've got that weight that you've attached all this meaning to, sometimes it causes more problems than it actually helps you. Like, yes, it can be good to have a goal to work towards, but I think that the flip side of that is that sometimes it becomes the nemesis that you never actually defeat because you're so focused on that nemesis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had someone like come at me for choosing like weird number jumps in my training. Like
Yeah.
like for how I hit 129 kilo snatch
Right.
on that at nationals instead of like a 130.
Yeah.
Realistically, yeah, like it's kind of the same weight. Like and I was just like confused for like I'm like who cares? Like
Yeah.
in my head I'm like okay, 130, yeah, like I'm going to hit 130 eventually, like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like like having this like battle against a certain weight and just like beating your head against a wall, missing it over and over and over again, trying to get it just because it's that weight. Like, if I just jumped from 125 to 130 every time I took it, I wouldn't have had the joy of hitting a 127, a 128, and a 129 PR in between that. Like, I would have just been sad for that entire time until I eventually
Yeah.
hit 130, which I would have done anyway.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, like I don't get the idea of like these milestone weights of where I only can go by 5 or 10 kilos. Like, you're just lifting, you're just practicing the movement, you're just working on your stuff. It doesn't like, okay, like I kind of feel like going up 2 or 3 kilos. I don't even care like what weight I'm already at. Like, yeah, I'm conscious of PRs because they're like measures of progress, but the PRs happen. Like, they'll just happen if you like feel good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Hmm.
you have to like go to war with that weight to make the PR happen and really fight demons to get it.
That's something I actually really admire about you. I've noticed this in your training and in your lifting, is that you don't seem to have any emotional attachment to certain weights. It's almost like benchmark weights aren't even a consideration for you. And I don't know if you know how abnormal that is. I don't know if you know how many people do not think like that.
Yeah, I
I
thought,
see
yeah,
well, I see people all the time just like, oh, really focused on benchmark weights, 3 reds on the bar, 3 slabs of beef, like that kind of thing is really pervasive in the weightlifting community. And I think it's honestly one of the more harmful things that stops a lot of people from making progress and a lot of people from having joy in their training too.
yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody really cares whether I do 168 or 169 or 170, whether it's 3 reds or it's a blue in a collar and whatever. Like, I don't know. I was really excited the first time I hit 170, like 3 reds on the bar for clean and jerk. Um, but I don't know. For me, it was more about the vibes of the people there, of the like what the progress meant. Like, it was like a new school year. Like, I don't know. It was more about the community aspect of the lifting, of the success, of the sharing it with other people. Um, like, I am very motivated just in a vacuum without like my team there. But I don't know. It's like it just doesn't. I don't know. I'm not doing the lifting to hit the number. Kind of like what we talked about with like the goal and stuff. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I don't really care. Like, I care about getting better, obviously, a lot. Like, I don't know. There's almost like for me, it almost like crosses into this like weird like borderline like my why about weightlifting. I was just talking about this. Shout out Coach Aaron Paley. I know he's listening to this too. Um, I was just talking about this with him yesterday, and it's like weightlifting has almost become like a sort of, and I don't mean to offend anybody or anything, but it's like a little religious in my life at this point, where it's like what I get out of it is like that I'm very like I'm very held to like a certain set of morals and principles that kind of like are promoted by the athlete lifestyle and by getting better at a sport. Like, it keeps me out of trouble to focus on being a good athlete. Um, and I think it adds to my life in a lot of ways. Maybe some people go to church for the community. Well, the gym's a community too. And again, like, I try to say this in the most sensitive way possible. But yeah, it was funny, like, drawing some parallels. Me and Coach Paley talking about that, because it's very just like a ritual kind of thing for me. It's just what I do. It's just who I am. And there's not like a
It's
reason. It's like, if you ask people that are, for instance, religious, like, yeah, like, are you doing it to go to heaven? Like, I mean, that's probably not what they're thinking about, like, most of the time. If you are talking to somebody, like, they're,
it's a self-development aspect.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, I am a better person because of weightlifting. I look
Hmm.
at the version of me that doesn't do weightlifting, and he's, quite frankly, a lot worse than the version that does. Like, in a lot of aspects that aren't just like, oh, I got bigger muscles, or like it's like he's just a better person. Like,
Yeah.
so that's like really. I mean, this got kind of off topic for what the question was a little bit, but like, yeah, that was a cool thought that I had the other day.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. All right, guys, I think that wraps up our mindset advice. So I'm curious to know if you listen to this, what was the piece of mindset advice that you resonated with the most, please let us know in the comments. That kind of stuff really does help us, you know, prepare future episodes as well. But also, it's just cool to connect with you guys. So I want to know. All right, let's go ahead full left turn here. Question number 2: when should you do squats before Olympic lifts? So this topic came up recently, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this too. But for me, almost never. I very rarely have ever programmed squats before Olympic lifts. Now, there's some exceptions to that, but yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about this.
Squats, why do we do them for weightlifting in the first place is important to establish.
Yeah,
We're building leg strength that's very specific to completing the Olympic lifts. So can we do that goal before Olympic lifts? Yeah. Can we also do it after? Yeah. Is there any, kind of detraction away from building that leg strength if we do it after? Not really. Is there, a benefit taken away from the Olympic lifts if we're doing the strength lifts before? Yes. So, or is there, does it take away from your Olympic lifts to
right.
do the strength lifts before? It almost always will. So why would you ever do them before?
Yeah.
If there's really no downside to doing them after, and there is for doing them before, it'd be really hard to convince me. Like, and there's a few situations. Do you have any situations that come to mind?
So, really, the biggest situation that comes to mind is with athletes that are strength constrained. Right, their biggest constraint is that they are just weak. Right, they're cleaning 98% of their best front squat. Maybe they're cleaning exactly their best front squat. Well, maybe in that instance, this person needs to focus on strength. And so maybe in that instance, it would make sense to devote all of your mental energy, or at least when you're most fresh, into doing squats. But then at the same time, like, it's going to take away from your Olympic lift. So it depends on the phase of training that you're in. Like, honestly, like if you're a strength constrained lifter and you're in a phase of training where your Olympic lifts, the numbers that you are hitting right now aren't that important, then it may be okay to do strength lifts before your Olympic lifts. But honestly, that's so rare. I think I've had one athlete ever that was the case for. And even then, like, there wasn't much of a difference between doing some really light Olympic lifts before they go into their squats and their pulls and stuff, versus like doing their squats first and then doing their really light Olympic lifts. That because they did all their squats first, if you are getting any benefit out of it, then you're gonna have to go lighter on your Olympic lifts after. So realistically, like, you're going to go light before, you're going to go light after. I would still at that point just say, like, do it after so that you can get better quality Olympic lifts in your training. Have you ever had anybody that like does squats before they Olympic lift?
I had a squat program that I wrote for a pretty weak-legged athlete. We were pretty tapped out on his Olympic lifts. Like, just literally the only thing limiting him was if he could stand up a clean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he was able to get under it with really good technique, hit a good bounce on it. But if he just almost couldn't stand it up, it wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there's athletes like that. You'll see them pretty often, actually. But so our big goal was just to get his squat stronger. So we did a squat program, and 2 of those days were like volume, like constant days throughout the program. They stayed the whole 9 weeks of this program. They stayed the same. It was 6x2 at 80%. Um, and this kind of training is really good at getting you very efficient at squatting. Um, and so then there was a middle day that was the progression day. This is where we were building the progress and changing the sets and reps and intensity. And on that middle day, which for some days in the program was extremely hard, I would put that before the Olympic lifts. We would do a very light down day on the Olympic lifts. After that, like, it was just like some block work that was pretty easy, um, just to get some reps in to kind of feel the movement. But that was just the main priority of that one day in the program was squatting, and that was it. Through the rest of the week, he did Olympic lifts before, and it only lasted for 9 weeks of the like 2 years I've coached him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the one case where I've done it. Another one that I've seen pretty useful that Trip Morris told me about. So right after we got off the plane, me and James Tice went to go train with Hampton for about a week. We kind of were telling him what our program was for that week, and he's like, "You should squat right now. Squat right now." And we're like, why? Like, why squat before? We're thinking about all the reasons we just talked about right now. And he's like, you need to wake your legs up after that travel. Like, I can't really tell you why it works, but every single weightlifter in the training hall, it's the first thing they do when they get off travel for an international trip. They go squat. And of course, you hear something like that and you're like, yes, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing, like, you hear a piece of advice like that from you could hear a piece of advice like that from some like random guy and be like, all right, whatever. But if you hear a piece of advice from that from, the coach of a medalist at the Olympics, it's going to change how you think about it a little bit. And then also you kind of take into consideration like Hampton's probably done more international competitions than
Hmm.
probably most people in the country outside of maybe Matty Rogers.
He's done so many
Um,
national meets where he's had to travel too. It's like,
yeah,
it's
like
absolutely insane. I mean, like the amount of times that they've traveled and probably tweaked and perfected his taper
mhm.
strategy is crazy. Like
Oh yeah.
like a lot of the times they've played around with going like 2 weeks early to a training site just to adjust to the travel.
Hmm.
Like that's something I think they did going into the last Olympic qualifying event. They were in like Thailand or not Thai, was it Thailand? Yeah, I think it was Thailand. They were there for like 2 weeks before he competed. Like it was crazy. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It makes sense though, especially if it's someplace with elevation where you're going to be competing, like
Yeah.
it makes sense. And then I'll say just like anecdotally, like whenever I travel, that is the first thing that I do. I'm like, I don't know what it is about this, but I don't think I could possibly figure out how to do an Olympic lift right now. But first thing I can squat, and for whatever reason, it just makes you feel good. And so, squatting before you do your Olympic lifts, it does seem to help a little bit, specifically like the day of your travel if you have to train that day.
Yeah. So anecdotally, I did feel very good the next day. My legs
Yeah.
felt great. So I don't know. I don't have a reason for you guys on why that works, but I think it does. So
Yeah,
you guys,
I would take the advice for sure.
Hey guys, quick interruption to the video to tell you about my 12-week weightlifting program. This program is something I put a lot of time and effort into, so be sure to go check it out. The program takes you through a few weeks of volume, strength phase, and then finally ends off with a peaking phase, ending out the program. It comes with a demo video showing you how the program works, how to use it, as well as exercise videos for all the complexes that are used throughout the program. Be sure to go check it out down below, and let's get back into the video.
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and we're going to get into the next portion of the podcast. We're going to get into the rant portion. I got something to rant about here.
yeah.
So I want to talk about the business model of USA Weightlifting. I think I've kind of been working on this concept a little bit in my head for the last couple of years. So I don't know how much of this information may be outdated that I'm basing this off of, but the biggest problem that I see with USA Weightlifting is that it seems like they're trying to get memberships one athlete at a time. Like it seems that they're so focused on the athlete because if they just get that one athlete in, then maybe that athlete will be the superhuman, Olympian that's going to win us all of our medals, right? I think that this approach maybe is a little bit misguided. I think what might be a better idea is to focus on getting more coaches and specifically getting more coaches to stay in business, to stay open. I think that USA Weightlifting has a huge problem right now, which is that you pretty famously cannot make money as a weightlifting coach, like not decent money, maybe livable, in squalor, but not great money in USA Weightlifting. And there's some people that have figured this out pretty well,
You kind
but
of
most,
you have to be like a jack of all trades to really make it work. You have to be good at marketing. You
yeah,
have to be, a good business owner as far as upkeep of a facility. You have
mhm.
to be a good manager on managing employees. You have to be good at a million things to make it work.
And a good coach on top of all that, because if you're not getting results for your athletes, then what's the point anyway? And so that's kind of the big problem that I see. And so I think that USA Weightlifting should put as much of their energy as possible into figuring out how to get more coaches into the sport and how to make sure that those coaches stay in the sport for a long, long time. Because a few reasons. One, a coach certification is worth a lot more than a monthly membership or an annual membership just for their membership, right? It's $500 for the cert. Okay, so that's something. And then if you can ascend them into that level 2 cert, that's another $500. That's great. So then you just got somebody who is going to pay you a lot more money. But then here's the interesting part. Those coaches can then, if they are taught by USA Weightlifting how to do this, they can then go ahead and open up a weightlifting gym, or they can partner with a CrossFit gym and open up a weightlifting program there and get 20, 30, 50 members for USA Weightlifting to sign up for USA Weightlifting. They can get those athletes to a high enough level where they can travel as a team to go to USA Weightlifting's meets. So it's really essentially just affiliate marketing, right? I can pay as much money as possible to reach, the largest audience I can, or I can go in and build people who are going to build audiences for me, right? So it seems like that would make the most amount of sense to me. How do I get coaches to start clubs and get to the point where they can have 150 members like a CrossFit gym can pull off? Why does this not exist in weightlifting? Right? I think that there's a problem somewhere in this umbrella that I don't know if I know the solution to, but I think that they should probably start by looking at the few successful clubs that do exist that have 100, 150 beyond members that are paying members that love to do weightlifting, that love to do it, and they stick with it for a long enough time, and they can run a profitable business off of. I think it starts with like talking to those guys, figuring out what are they all doing that they all have in common, and start there. Then from there, I think, maybe they take the USA Weightlifting podcast, and instead of talking about the clean turnover or whatever, they should probably talk about like, here's the marketing strategy that this weightlifting gym is using, that is constantly bringing in 3 new members every week. Like that's a kind of an important big deal. I think that that's probably what would make sense. So rather than like trying to get members in to USA Weightlifting itself, getting more coaches in, rather than trying to squeeze all the possible money out of the existing members that are currently here, how do we just increase the total pool of athletes that we can make money from? So that's kind of the rant that I've got. I would love to see them focus more on not even coach development, though I think that is an important aspect of building a stronger business. But I think also just business development for coaches would be huge. Maybe it's talking to them about how to like do their taxes effectively. Maybe it's talking about how to, find an intern in your gym that can help you run your social media so you can focus on coaching people. Whatever those things are that those successful gyms are doing, I would love to hear more about that. And I think more coaches would love to hear about that as well.
I think there's a really easy opportunity too. Like I look at the NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association, and I think they've done an amazing job networking coaches. So they actually use their podcast, their coaching podcast, and they do talk a lot about business and career and how to advance yourself and how to make connections and how to do that kind of thing. Um, but they also offer conferences where you can go and literally listen to these people speak, the successful people in the industry speak.
I mean, that's just in itself a really important topic. Like, why is there not a USA Weightlifting conference?
And literally all the coaches in the country all go to nationals, all go to AO finals. Like for the most part, like it's like
Right.
like anybody who's anybody's already there. Like if they just hosted, say competition ends 8 p.m. And then they just host like a 2 hour. This is each day there's like a 2 hour block of like some coaches teaching something. In like a conference style thing, and you have to be a USAW L2 to, go to that specific one. Maybe there's an upper level one, right? Only L3s can go to this one or whatever. So there's some sort of incentive structure to, pay money into their certs and stuff.
Right.
Same way that you need a CSCS to go to some portions of the NSCA National Conference, whereas other parts are just open to the public completely.
Yeah.
And they make money doing those conferences. Like they're not taking a loss by doing that. It's actually making them money too. So
Right. I mean, that's USA Weightlifting could easily add in a conference portion to their yearly structure, to their yearly event schedule, and probably make a decent amount of money just from the conference itself. But the conference itself would be designed to help coaches make their business work.
And network and have connections and
All that.
just ask those questions to the coaches that you see that are doing it really well. Like, hey, like, nice to meet you. My name's Calvin. Like, I've seen you coaching a lot, and I have a few questions about how you're running your media team. Like, how are you
Yeah.
guys putting out content? We want to learn about that.
Yeah. Or even, simple things like when you're traveling and you've got a big team of athletes, do you charge them a travel, like a coach fee for a competition? Like some teams do that, and that's how coaches are able to not have to stress going to big national meets that they've got to pay out of pocket for. Where other coaches are like, no, I just charge every one of my athletes a $50 travel fee, and that covers my costs. Like that kind of stuff would be really valuable, and I think the biggest thing with coaches is that they love coaching, and they're not always great at all the other stuff that they have to be good at if they want to do coaching as a career. And I think that if we could figure out how to make that happen, I think that'd be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead. I think that ends my rant here. But if you have ideas on this, let us know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, or just shoot me a message. I know some of you guys are going to shoot me a text right after you hear this and tell me what your thoughts were. But let's go ahead and get into the shout out portion of this podcast. We're shouting out a few lifters that deserve some recognition. They're putting up big lifts. Their technique is making huge improvements. Maybe they're qualifying for big meets, whatever it is. We want to shout you guys out. So who's the first athlete that you're shouting out?
I got Angel Quintero. He posted a training day here. 125, 150 was his total. So 275 snatch, 330 clean and jerk. This is at around 71 kilos body weight. So this guy only weighs 150 pounds, throwing up some absolutely massive weights here. We've actually talked about Angel a little bit for his performance at the Florida State Championships in the past. But that was, among some other people. I wanted to bring special highlight to just him doing this over double body weight clean and jerk. It is pretty crazy. And now, obviously, his technique is going to break down a little with these super heavy weights. But especially if you see him lifting, more medium heavy weights, his technique is just incredible, especially for such a young lifter, just 18 years old. One thing that I notice is his snatch. He's really not getting that much height on the bar. And so it shows a lot of skill to be able to pull under quick enough with, not a very high flying bar, that he's able to get to this really great bottom position super fast. That's how you become really good at snatch. And it takes a lot of skill to get to that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's I love watching him lift because he's got just what looks like textbook technique all the time, but he's also putting up crazy numbers. He comes out of Freedom Weightlifting, so if you guys haven't heard, like, Freedom Weightlifting is one of the sickest weightlifting gyms in the country. I think that they're awesome. You should go check them out if you're in the area for sure, because they're always cranking out great lifters like this. So I think that wraps it up for this week's episode. Calvin, where can people find you?
At Calvin Lackey, 81 kg.
And you guys can find me at Big Ben Strength everywhere. Make sure to check out our training camp. We've got a few spots left for that. We'll have a link in the description below and in the comments. And then make sure to check out our training programs and coaching stuff. We'll have that all down there in the description. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.